G'day, welcome back to Max and Dave Horsemanship again. And I'll give you a quick little synopsis of the weather, which we kind of like to do. Spring is definitely here again. And for those of you that do not understand the concept of weather in this area, today is the equivalent of 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I know most of my viewers are actually in the U.S., and that makes more sense to you. I could tell you what it is in Celsius too, but, well, whatever, is it 10, 11, something like that? I don't know. It's around that. It's a nice day. Well, here it is. For some of you, depending on the climate you're used to, it might actually be kind of chilly. But where I am, with the sun shining, 50 degrees is a pretty nice day. And well, maybe a tiny bit warmer would be almost ideal, because you could work outside without getting too hot, but it's still pleasant, that you're not going to be shivering and cold. As you can see, I'm barehanded today, and well, that sort of thing. Anyhow, I want to talk about how you can save a lot of money and maybe solve a problem. Now, in the past, I have talked about how the number one mistake that we make is getting in too big of a hurry to get in the saddle. And as a result, we tend to miss things. And a lot of people, when they have problems in the saddle, they'll hire a riding instructor or a coach or whatever. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Sometimes we could learn something from them, and I kind of wish I had. And I won't say you can't learn anything from a riding instructor or a coach or whatever, but sometimes that's not the problem. Well, sometimes it is. Maybe you're not doing things quite right, and a little instruction could help. But I want to show you what the problem usually is, and this goes back to something I saw recently in a video, and it also goes back to something I heard somebody saying one time. They're having a bit of a problem with doing advanced clinics, where they're ridden clinics, not groundwork clinics. And he would spend a great deal of his time helping out one individual who had clearly skipped some of the groundwork or not done it as thoroughly as they should have, and that sort of thing. And because almost all problems in the saddle go back to something on the ground. Well, at least most of them do. And he was getting a little frustrated with this, and he was finding that very often the problems were, in fact, groundwork. Had nothing to do with them in the saddle or the way they were riding or anything else. It happened to have to do with groundwork. Now, throughout the process of groundwork, there's a lot of things that you're going to achieve, like building a relationship with your horse, that it becomes rather calm and trusting in all circumstances. No matter what you ask it to do or where you ask it to go, it's not going to have a fit about stuff. And that's what you want when you're riding. Because when you're riding, you don't want a horse that's going to flip out over every little thing. And ultimately, it could end up putting you on the ground, getting you hurt, maybe getting the horse hurt, who knows. All kinds of bad things can happen if a horse gets spooked under saddle. And you don't want that. Definitely, you do not want that, especially if you got a rather inexperienced rider on their back. You know, that can lead to some very, very bad consequences. There's also a number of other things, too. It's like, you know, and when you're in the saddle, it's, well, my horse isn't responding to the reins the way I'd like. Well, I've showed you this one before, and I don't know if she'll do it today because I haven't done it in a long time. Well, let's just see how sensitive she is to the reins. Now, this is a rope halter and lead, but I actually ride in a rope halter, so no difference. But look what happens. I got that lead rope hanging over one finger right there, and all I have to do is pick it up, and she turns her head. You do it for me again, dear? Oh, come on. There we go. I'm actually having to pull a little bit harder than I think I should. There we go. That's better. There we go. Now, if your horse doesn't respond to reins, is it going to respond to the lead rope, or vice versa? You know, the two are connected. Like, is that what you want from your reins? Do you want that soft and gentle of a response? Same thing with your leg. You know, this horse, well, you don't even have to touch her. She gets actually kind of offended if you touch her on the ground, but if she doesn't respond to your cues on the ground, is she going to respond to your leg? And, well, again, you got a problem. And it appears to be one that is happening while riding, but it's actually a problem on the ground because the horse isn't responding to your cues. Now, the way I like to do things is I like to teach the horse to respond to all of my cues on the ground before I ever get in the saddle, so that when I do get in the saddle, well, the horse pretty much already knows how to be ridden. And if you go back to one of my videos where I rode Clint before I sold him, I showed him standing still to be, not tied, he was standing still to be groomed, saddled, all kinds of stuff. He walked up to the mounting block for me, let me get on, and we rode off. We stopped very gently. Where do you think you're going, dear? I didn't ask you to move. Back up a little, dear. You know, and that's an example of what you get if you do your groundwork. Now, I'm not saying, like I said in the beginning, I'm not saying you can't benefit from a riding instructor or a riding coach or anything like that. Horsemanship is not like going to university. You don't spend a couple of years obtaining knowledge and you get a degree and you're done. You're never done learning. You can be learning until the day you die. There is no degree. You just keep on learning. So can you benefit from one of those people? Perhaps. I won't say you can't, but I am going to say that before you run out and spend your money on one of them, go back and check your groundwork and see how good that is. How good does the horse back up for you? How good does the horse yield to you? How sensitive is that horse to the lead? Because that's the same as your reins. For those of you that don't already know, I ride in a rope halter, so this is my reins. You know, there's no difference because I figure, hey, if she understands this, she's going to understand everything else as well. So the way I like to do things is, like I said, I teach the horse to be ridden before I ride it. I teach them. I'm very, very thorough. I'm not great, and I'm not that good of a rider actually either. So that's another one of the reasons I like to make darn sure that I've done my groundwork properly, so that when I do get on the horse, I don't have surprises. And I'll walk you through all of those things. And one of these days, I have a complete series of videos I did that when I trained Clint that I still haven't decided what to do with yet. Someday, some of them I have partially uploaded onto YouTube, little bits of them, and I'm thinking, I don't know, well, we'll figure that one out eventually. But anyhow, if you're having problems riding, don't be in a big hurry to spend your money and think that it's a problem with what you're doing while you're riding. It might be, it's something to always consider as a possibility. But before you run out and spend money on instructors and coaches and all that sort of stuff, take some time to figure out how well the horse is working on the ground. Because maybe your problem has nothing to do with riding. 99% of the time, it is in fact a problem on the ground. Have a good day.